Good time of the day. We received an important question today. Why the opioid epidemic is getting worse? Estimate that about 120,000 people died over the last year. Depends how you measure it, how updated the data is, and at least 5,200 in Ohio, which is the record number. Despite all the efforts, despite regulations that exist for more than 10 years and so on. What's going on and what can be done?
Hi, my name is Diane Walker. I've been coming to the pain clinic for about 2 years, and it has really helped with the pain in my lower back and hip.
Hi, my name's Norma Browning. I'm a patient of Dr. Margolin. I'm very pleased with Dr. Margolin. He may have saved my life.
I was referred to Dr. Margolin, and the shots really helped me. I'm doing a lot better.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Hagedorn. I've been coming to Dr. Margolin since 2011. He has helped me tremendously with different pain problems that I've had, and I am thankful that I found him.
Well, first, I would like to thank for this question. It's really an important question. We actually tried to publish a couple of things. If you look at our website, we were one of the first practices in Ohio around 2015, wrote first letters to different authorities with some data suggesting that the current approach may not work. And unfortunately, if you look at the data and the mortality data and morbidity data, you see that it is really not working well. So what's the current approach? The current approach was fighting pill mills approach, which had a lot of sense. Unfortunately, 15 years, 20 years in some areas, including some areas in Ohio, there were so-called pill mills where people got opioids, prescribed opioids without proper justification, and some of them misused them, abused them, sold those medications. Completely dangerous situation. It was addressed by closing the pill mills, by certifying pain management, and maybe even over-regulating. But yeah, that was a problem 15 years ago. However, surprisingly, if you look at the mortality curve, and we had a video about it, I believe in May last year, and you can find it on our channel. Maybe we'll put it as a reference link in our video. The more government regulated, the more pain management offices were put out of business or were looked at, and so on and so forth, the higher the mortality is. So at first look, this approach made sense, but if you look at the numbers and you look what's going on at the actually what's going on the in the real life, it's not enough, or it's not working out. Why it's not working out? Because the regulations don't change medical conditions. And if people have aberrant drug-seeking behavior or substance misuse, what used to be called addiction problem, which is a DSM-4 or 5 diagnosis, it cannot be changed by regulations. You need support services, you need cooperation, you need a different approach. In addition, many times, the regulations were created or implemented primarily by non-physicians, mostly lawyers or officers, police officers, government officers, who had limited understanding of the problem, assuming coming from a good place with best intentions, did not improve the situation. Another interesting point that I learned is the HMO mentality, which people don't talk about. Some HMOs are for-profit organizations. They have shareholders. Some of them just get bonuses based on bottom line. And I'll give you just some number just to make it, just to give you an example, not related specifically to any HMO, but it can be true for a lot of HMOs. Let's say HMO has 1 million members in Ohio. It's not uncommon, or across the country, much more. And let's say 10% of them, 100,000 people require screening for drug and alcohol. Very reasonable. In reality, even more. in Medicaid population, for example, let's say 100,000 people, and you need, let's say, overall to spend $1,000 for screening, for counseling, for urine testing, for overall whatever, for carrying out this. And you deny it, and you say, look, listen, it's not necessary, we deny it. Most of these members cannot advocate for themselves because of socioeconomic challenges. And you denied it 100,000 times 1,000, what is it, $10 million, just check my math. But you created tons of money from thin air. And some of that would go to bonuses of some, I guess, managers. And, there is some kind of interest, financial interest in actually denying services, even life-saving services in the HMO and insurance world. And it's not discussed in the media. Like, I remember 20 years ago when I got into the field, nobody discussed the role of pharmaceutical companies, because pharmaceutical companies laughed at their responsibility. They said, look, it's the responsibility of the physician. We just manufacture medications and blah, blah, blah. It's not our responsibility. Look at the huge settlements they ended up now, because actually they didn't disclose proper information, so on. So I think there is a significant responsibility on behalf of some managed care organization or regulatory authorities and insurance decision makers, which hopefully by negligence ignore this point. And obviously, if you don't screen for drug and alcohol, the chances of early diagnose somebody and screen somebody with also called early intervention to step in and try to save this person are not very high. Let's put it this way. So it's one of the problems that are not being addressed. Another interesting problem is there is a gap between what people are advised to do and what people do. Now, this is called a 5-point strategy. I believe it was adopted by the federal government in 2017. There are 5 points, a framework based on 5-point strategy, how to decrease opioid mortality. And one of the 5 points was advancement of multidisciplinary pain programs that federal government and state government was supposed to subsidize, to help, and so on. And I've done quite a few presentations, as you're noticing, through the channel, the website. And many times I would ask people, a lot of physicians, have you heard about anybody, and their pain management, they work with pain patients, hospitals, private practice. Have you heard any program that anybody came and said, hey, we have this 5-point strategy, how can we help you? What do you need? Or at least not even that. What do you think? What is your feedback on what's going on? Being naive, when we first got in certified, I even tried to volunteer what my feedback is, and I just got polite smile. Nobody cares about our feedback. There is no cooperation, and there is no support, and the results speak for themselves. Mortality is going up. Another interesting point, in my opinion, which is also not being discussed, is this is a slide from my presentation from 2019, and it talked about overregulated environment, right? About Ohio being one of the 3 most difficult states to practice pain medicine, and switching from fear to cooperation. What do I mean by that? Well, regulations are necessary. Let's say pill mills are dangerous and definitely should have been taken care of. However, if you make somebody who wants to help a legitimate patient in a reasonable way, and you make like tons of regulations, you always check them, you scare them, I don't want to harass them, but you scare them off. They just say, you know what, I'm not dealing with that. I'm not prescribing any opioids, talk to you later. And that's what happens to these people. They go to the street. And when they go to the street, they overdose and die. And it requires some balance. And that's what I mean, switching from fear to cooperation. You need to create a reasonable balance. Physicians should be allowed to give their feedback. Physicians should be involved in the committees, and no services should be denied without independent expert in pain medicine or addiction medicine, or somebody who sees the medical part, because of conflict of interest, because this makes no sense. Non-physicians setting their own standard of care based on sometimes on their organizational, personal, or financial objectives. And that's very dangerous, and that's why the mortality is going up. And the last point, also not discussed, I like to show people two pictures, and I ask them, who are those people? And the first person, obviously, the woman on top is Marilyn Monroe. Everybody knows her, and she's supposed to be a cultural icon. I think she died from overdose. But the person here, nobody knows that. His name is Norman Borlaug. He was a PhD in genetics who developed something called dwarfed wheat, a certain breed of wheat that helped India and some other third world countries in the 70s and 80s to feed 100 millions of people. He saved hundreds of millions, including children, from starvation. Yes, there is an estimate like 1 billion people. Now, who made the world a better place out of the two? I mean, you tell me. I mean, I have nothing personal against Marilyn Monroe, but I would vote that Norman Borlaug did. He saved 1 billion people from starvation. Who is an icon in our culture? You tell me. So unless we change the cultural approach to drugs, to opioids, to who is icon for us, and we teach it to our kids, it's definitely harder to change the opioid mortality. And I would end with Chinese saying that those who say I can and those who say I cannot are both right. It can be changed or it cannot be changed, depending how we look at it. I'm sorry to tell you that so far I don't see improvement, but it does not mean improvement cannot be done. And let's work together to hopefully see it in the nearest future. Thank you again for this question.